I've just disembarked a cruise on the Celebrity Silhouette. This wasn't my first time cruising on the ship, but this cruise was completely different to the first time I cruised on her. It's honestly a bit difficult to think that this was the same ship and the same cruise line. To celebrate the first sailing of the Celebrity Silhouette since the shutdown, Celebrity invited me, along with journalists, important people, and even some celebrities to join them for a British Isles cruise. This meant that I got to do things that I would never normally do on a cruise, and I got to go in places that I would never normally be allowed to go in, through those do not enter doors. I also had the weirdest dinner I've ever had on a cruise, but more about that later. Celebrity have spent a whopping $75 million on this ship since I was first on board, so I was obviously interested if I would notice the differences. I know $75 million sounds like a lot of money, but cruise ships are quite expensive things to run, so I didn't know if I would actually be able to notice the differences. I was interested in the COVID safety measures too, but most importantly, I was interested in getting back to eating the Celebrity Cruises food, which is amazing. I took my mum on this cruise, who's never cruised with Celebrity before, so I was interested in what she would think of it. My mum's heard me talking about Celebrity for years now, but it's very different to actually being on board. I took my first cruise with Celebrity in 2019, and I had heard amazing things about Celebrity Cruises food. Before this, I'd never really been able to afford a Celebrity cruise, but I saw one that was 3 nights long. It was over a weekend, it was perfect, and I was really interested in that celebrity difference that lots of Celebrity fans have told me about for years. The 3-night cruise I took went to Amsterdam and back. It was over a weekend, so everybody on board was celebrating their birthdays, other anniversaries, and it was great, but I just knew when I came back from that cruise, I want to try a proper Celebrity cruise. I don't think that really counts, which is probably why you haven't heard me talk about cruising with Celebrity, because I didn't really think I could base it off of that 3-night party cruise. As good as it was a party cruise. When you take a Celebrity cruise at the moment, you have to show a negative PCR test before you can get on board, which meant that my kind of Celebrity cruising journey started a few days before the cruise. Celebrity have partnered with a company called Eurofins, which means you can do tests at their centres for free. You can do private tests and they're totally fine, but if it doesn't come back in time, you're kind of on your own, whereas if you do it through the Celebrity partner company, I figure at least Celebrity will be on my side there and chasing them up for me. Because we'd already done the check-in on our phones, because we'd already done our tests, the embarkation process was so unbelievably quick. I took an MSC cruise about a month ago, and with MSC you have to do a test at the port. That kind of just slowed things down, and embarkation took about an hour and a half, which I really didn't think was too bad. But this Celebrity cruise, I went from my car to the ship in 22 minutes. Very impressive, considering that's going through security, that's checking your COVID test, checking your vaccinations, checking your passport, checking you're checked in and ready to go. 22 minutes. That's pretty good. One of the best things about taking one of these first cruises is that nobody else is disembarking, so as soon as you get on board you can go straight to your cabin. I had a balcony cabin in the middle of the ship. If you know me, you'll know I'm normally in an inside cabin, I'm normally in the worst locations on the ship, so it was really nice to have not only a balcony, but a central balcony. The central location isn't something that I would pay extra for, but I certainly enjoyed it when I was on this cruise. It was really nice to come out of my room and think, oh, do I go forward or do I go backwards? Normally for me, I'm right at the end, so there's only one option to walk 4 miles that way to get to anything. But it was nice, I enjoyed it. Our balcony cabin was very spacious, it was very comfortable, it was quite similar to the cabins that they had before. They haven't made huge changes because they really didn't need to. Our bathroom was absolutely massive, it's bigger than I think almost any bathroom I've had on a cruise ship, and we were very, very comfortable in this cabin. The cabin also has free room service, which is something I don't normally do on a cruise, but we had room service breakfast every single day of our cruise. We were up early doing excursions, doing tours, and that room service, it was amazing. It was so good. Another thing that I liked about these cabins is that they all have kettles. Most cruise lines that are doing British Isles cruises this summer are adding kettles to the cabins so people can make their own tea, because they know how much we love tea here in Britain, and I loved that kettle. The first thing we needed to do, as you do on every cruise, is the muster drill. The muster drill is a safety drill that has to be completed on the first day of your cruise, and it tells you things like where to go in an emergency, how to put on your life jacket. Traditionally, you would all go together to a muster drill. When I cruised on the Celebrity Silhouette before, we all went to the theatre, we watched the videos, we learned how to put on the life jackets, but I'm happy to say that that really isn't a thing anymore. All that we had to do was watch the safety information either on our phones or on the TV, and then go to our muster station so that we would get a little sticker. I have the little sticker here, and this sticker is just proof that we went to the muster station. That's all we needed. It didn't take very long at all. And I hope that this is a COVID change that sticks around forever because it's so much better. There are a couple of things on these celebrity ships that I think make them instantly recognisable as this type of celebrity ship. The first one is that in the atrium there is a giant tree. A giant tree, a real tree that somebody has to water, somebody has to look after. I don't know really how they do that when it's so high up, but I'm sure they have it worked out. And rather them than me, that sounds terrifying. The second thing is that the Celebrity Silhouette has real grass on the top. I remember cruising on the Celebrity Silhouette before. I saw the grass, I thought, oh cool, grass. But I didn't really appreciate how tricky it is to get grass to grow on a cruise ship. Celebrity had to do a lot of work behind the scenes to find a type of grass that would be able to grow by the sea with the salty air. I hadn't even thought about it before, but they did a lot of work to find this perfect hybrid grass. And there's 2 people on board who look after the lawn. When I was on board, it was the Euro football games that were showing, and they were showing on this big screen. I'm pretty sure that this big screen is one of the things that they updated during the big refurbishment. I'm going to be bringing you a full ship tour that shows what it used to look like and what it looks like now. I think it's really cool to see them side by side, so make sure you subscribe for that. Coming soon. The football games were also shown in the theatre and in various bars around the ship. I'm personally not into football, so we always decided to have our dinner at football time. You could still hear the boos and the cheers, you could work out who was winning, but I much prefer to be eating than watching football. Another area that has had big changes since the big refurb is the sunset bar. So at the back of the ship, there used to be a bar at the back and then 2 pieces of grass that would go down the side. They have changed these side areas into these amazing seating areas, and I think this became one of my favourite places on the ship. It was incredibly comfortable, incredibly relaxing. We would have a drink, and we even had some sunshine on this cruise, taking a British Isles cruise. We were very lucky. One of the problems I had with my first celebrity cruise is that it was really tricky to find a seat in any bar, in any lounge. Admittedly, I did take the party cruise, but I'm still happy to see that Celebrity have added a lot more seats into a lot of places. A lot of the money that they spent, the $75 million, seems to have been spent on extra seats, which I think is good. On my first Celebrity Silhouette cruise, we found a few places where we could find seats that tended to be quiet. We would spend a lot of time in this hideaway area, which I thought was very cool, and also in the library. But even the library was not free of people enjoying their stag and hen do's. Your Britishism of the week is a stag and hen do. This is what you guys in the US call a bachelor and bachelorette party. Quite far back in history, male-only and female-only parties have been called stag and hen parties. But it is what it is. It is a stag or hen do here in the UK, and I think Australia probably is with us on this one. You normally are with the Britishisms. During our cruise, there were just under 1,000 passengers on board and almost as many crew. The Celebrity Silhouette can hold almost 3,000 passengers, so it'll be interesting to see how that kind of progresses. Celebrity are planning on increasing that slowly. They're not going to go from 1,000 to full capacity, but they're slowly going to add more and more people. Because of the COVID safety measures, guests really do need the extra space. When we were in the buffet, every other table would be cordoned off, don't sit here, social distancing. That would be the same in the theatre, in the bars and the lounges. But I imagine as that relaxes, the passenger numbers will increase and things will get back to normal. The food was definitely one of the main things I was looking forward to on this cruise. Even though I only cruised for 3 days with Celebrity before, I have very fond memories of the plates of cookies, of the Yorkshire puddings in the buffet, and I was really keen to try the food again. At the time, that buffet was my favourite cruise ship buffet, and I'm happy to say I think it still is. The buffet is very similar to how it was pre-COVID. The only difference really is that you wear a mask when you're walking around, and the food is served to you and you just take your your plate and you go and sit down. There's no more of those sharing tongs, which I think really is a good thing. We've all been in the buffet when someone's picked something up, decided that they didn't want it and put it back. And I don't want that to ever come back to buffets again. I'm much happier with the current setup. At the moment, all celebrity cruises include drinks, Wi-Fi and gratuities, just as standard in the cruise price. I have to admit that has kind of priced me out of taking a celebrity cruise. I'm definitely more of a budget cruiser, but for the celebrity cruises market, it makes perfect sense and it makes things so much easier. I did find the included drinks part a bit confusing. I just felt like it could have been clearer. I did mention it to a few people who worked for Celebrity and they all took my opinion on board and they actually seemed to care about what I was saying, which isn't something I'm really used to, but it was brilliant. They said they were aware of why it might be a bit confusing and that they are working on making it clearer. I took a cruise a month ago with MSC, which had included drinks, and on MSC, every drink £10 or under was included, £10 or over, you pay for it. That was very easy and that was really kind of told to you over and over again. On the Celebrity Cruise, I found out that the included drinks meant that you had the classic package included, but I didn't really know what was inside that classic package. When you scanned the menu in different bars, sometimes it would come up with classic cocktails, classic beers, sometimes it would just come up with drinks with prices. I didn't know what the drink's price limit was. I believe it's $11 per drink, but it just could have been clearer. It just didn't need to be that confusing. It's definitely not the end of the world. You could just ask your waiter which drinks are included, and I ended up screenshotting different menus on my phone so that I could look back at the lists and work out what I wanted. I just felt like it could have been a bit better and it wouldn't take a lot to make it clearer, so I thought it was worth mentioning. I have put together a guide of which drinks are included, including all of the drinks from the menus that I found and I enjoyed on this cruise. You can check that out on my website. Our first port stop was in Dover and we took an excursion on the Kent and Sussex Railway down on the south coast of England. I'm from the south coast of England, so it was a little bit strange to do an excursion so close to home, but we still had a really good time on the train. At the minute, if you're taking a celebrity cruise, you have to do organised excursions. I don't think that will be the case for very long though, and if you know me, you know I normally do my own excursions. And I probably would in future, but this was fun. When we first got onto the bus and we went onto the train, it was incredibly foggy, it was incredibly rainy, and I had visions of us just seeing white fog all the way on the train. Luckily it did clear, we kind of had blue skies, and by the time we got back onto the ship, the weather was lovely. Typical that it would rain as soon as we got off and was lovely as soon as we got back on board. But I guess that is the English summer for you, it is unpredictable. When we got on board, we went to the theatre and then had one of the most memorable dinners that I've ever had on a cruise. All of the singers and the dancers in the theatre were absolutely amazing, and you could film and take photos during the shows, which is something I'm not used to. Everyone watching the show had to wear their mask, and I would say the majority of people did do that. You also had to keep 2 seats between you and the other cruise parties. We never struggled to get a seat, but again, our cruise was at reduced capacity. But I imagine as they'll increase the capacity, they'll also increase the capacity of the theatre. So it will be fine. This theatre has 2 levels, which I really like. So if we were a bit late, we would come in at the top, sit at the back and just look down. By late, I mean still on time. I'm one of these people who I think on time is about 15 minutes early. And if you're 5 minutes early, you're late. I don't know. If anyone's like that, let me know. But if we came in 5 minutes before, we would just sit at the top. Sometimes things would come out of the stage, like a pole, like a podium, like a smoke machine. It was very visually appealing and all of the costumes were really cool and colourful too. There was no kind of CD soundtrack either. Everything was backed by a real band with multiple people in it playing all of these instruments in real time, which was really cool. Afterwards, we went to dinner in a place called Le Petit Chef, which describes itself as a one-of-a-kind dining experience, and it really lived up to that name. I've never seen anything like it before. I've never seen anything like it since. When I was describing it to my mum, where we were going to dinner and what it was going to be like, I don't know if she believed me or she thought I was making it up. The main idea behind Le Petit Chef is that a little animated man cooks and prepares your dinner for you. I know that sounds crazy, but it is a real thing. We would be sat at the table, it would go dark and your plate would light up. At that point, a little man would walk across your plate. He would, scoop fish out of the sea. He would cut up vegetables. He would use snow to make your ice cream. And he would basically design your dinner on your plate for you, and then your real food would arrive. And this would happen for every course. The kind of default recommended menu on board was a lobster dish, and the alternative was a meat dish. I'm vegetarian, so I had to ask for a vegetarian alternative, which they had, and they were very happy to bring that to me. It just meant that the vegetarian meal didn't match the animation, but I suppose that makes sense. It's more interesting to see a little man kind of catching a fish than it is making a lentil or cheese tart or something like that. I did find the vegetarian options a bit limited, and I was kind of expecting to. It was fine in the buffet, but in the main dining room, sometimes only 1 out of 9 of the main courses would be vegetarian, and normally that would be a cheese, which is fine for me, but if you're vegan, the main menu isn't really going to work for you. That said, Celebrity would do anything for you. They will create anything, I'm sure, but it could just be a bit easier for vegetarian and for vegan people. It seems to be an American cruise line thing, not just the Celebrity Cruises thing. I found the same on Royal Caribbean, Norwegian Cruise Line. Here in the UK, I think it's around 20% of us don't eat meat, so the British and the European cruise lines, I've just found, tend to do that a bit better. Not that I was hungry for even a second, not for a second. All of the vegetarian food was great. I just feel like American cruise lines, this is an area where they could improve. We had a really good evening in this restaurant. We did do a couple of other specialty restaurants too, all of which were brilliant, but I think this is the one that's really going to stick in my mind long term, because I've never seen anything like it. One area that has been totally refurbed during the refurbishment is the Craft Social Bar. This used to be a wine bar, it used to be kind of dark and mysterious, and now it is this bar. This is what it looks like. The way that they pour you a pint in this bar can only be described as magic. I've definitely never seen that before. I don't think you can really call it pouring. You're not pouring. Magic. We did do beer tasting, and I'm not really into my beer. I have to admit, most beer just tastes like beer to me, but we did have a good time, and you can imagine how popular this bar was when the football was on. Very popular. I can't believe I haven't mentioned the cookies yet. Every cruise I go on, I make it my mission to find and try some cookies. On Celebrity, they have amazing cookies in the buffet, and they also have cookies in the cafe. There will be a jar, you just ask whoever's there to give you a cookie. They give you a cookie in a little bag. If you want more, you just ask for more. Unlimited cookies, and they were very good. I think Princess are still holding my #1 spot for cookies, but Celebrity are definitely coming up there. I'll have to try some more to work it out. Our second port stop was in Belfast, and we went to the Titanic Museum, which was awesome. I'm really into my ship history. You'll find a lot of ship history on my website. The thing that surprised me about this museum though was that it had a ride in the middle. I was used to, walking around, reading things, having the headset on, came around the corner and there's a ride. You get on this ride, it takes you through the part where they're kind of building the Titanic. It was very cool, I liked it. It was a bit strange to do our tour as a COVID safe bubble because we always had to stay together, but I don't think that will be the case for much longer, and our tour guide did a really good job of keeping everybody together. That's not an easy job. It was really nice to hear from her how much Belfast had missed tourism, how much it had missed cruise ships, and it felt so good just to be back and just to be doing something touristy. We haven't done that in such a long time. I thought that the museum did a really good job of kind of sharing the story in a way that wasn't just overly depressing. It went all the way through from Belfast before Titanic to exploring the wreck with these little cameras. This here is a mock-up of a third-class cabin on board. Let me know if you would be happy to stay in this on your next cruise. After going to the Titanic Museum, we did a tour of Belfast, which was really nice to see more. I'm a big Game of Thrones fan, so we did get to see some kind of Game of Thrones filming sets. I definitely want to come back to Belfast so that I can do more of that stuff. I think for me personally, that's one of my favourite things about cruising. You can have a little taster of any place and you can decide where you want to go back to. I hadn't considered before going to Belfast for the weekend, but now that I visited for a day on the cruise, I would like to go back, and I think I will. Back on the ship, we spent quite a lot of time in what is called the Sky Lounge. It is this huge lounge that has glass windows all around the side. I really miss it when a cruise ship doesn't have a lounge like that. I tend to sit there in the daytime. They've added all of these rocking chairs there since the last refurb, and quite a lot of people did fall asleep there. This was a place where they had music, they would do game shows in there too, and it was quite popular, like a nice calm place to hang out. When the rest of the ship was watching football, that place wasn't, so I would be in there sometimes. You can really see the differences in this area between my before ship tour and my after ship tour. In the before one, I struggled to film anything in there because it was so busy, and I didn't have that problem on the more recent cruise. Our next port stop was Liverpool, and we did the thing that you have to do when you go to Liverpool, and that is the Beatles experience. We did a walking tour around Liverpool, then went to the Beatles experience. We explored the docks, we saw all kinds of cool places in Liverpool. I'd never been to Liverpool before, this was my first time. I did meet quite a few people on the ship who were from near Liverpool. I also met quite a few YouTube subscribers on the ship too, which was really cool. If you're watching this now and you talk to me on the ship, thank you for talking to me. I had a brilliant time, and it was so nice to see so many friendly faces around the ship. It was strange for me, but really, really good. One of my favourite things about the celebrity ships is the size and the number of swimming pools that they have. They have 2 huge swimming pools in the middle of the pool deck, and they also have this amazing inside solarium area, which did get used quite a lot on our cruise because the weather wasn't always sunny. I was so busy on this cruise with tours and excursions and specialty meals and doing all kinds of things that I don't normally do that I actually didn't go swimming at any point on this cruise. I have been swimming before though, so I feel like I could imagine what that was like. What was nice about this cruise for me was that I got to do things that I wouldn't have even really imagined. I had a friend who was staying in a suite who let me tour the suite, which was awesome. More about that coming in a later video. I asked my mum how she would describe this cruise because this was her first celebrity cruise. She described the cruise as fantastic and the food as delicious. So there you have it, that's the final answer from my mum. Delicious and fantastic. Join me in this video as we embark on the Celebrity Silhouette the first time. You can see in this video how much the ship has changed, and also I think how much I've changed. I think I look really strange in this video. I had just shaved my head, I think 6 months earlier for charity, which is why I look kind of odd, but it is what it is. Watch that video next.